The story begins by showing a group of Catholic fathers and priests tying up a woman and performing a ritual on her. The priests and villagers believed that many dark spirits had possessed the woman's body, and the best way to destroy any spirit or ghost was to burn the host's body. So the priests and the fathers did exactly that, they burned her alive. But the priest also did something else. He brought a doll and chanted some mantras, imprisoning the evil spirit inside that doll. Since then, stories about the doll have spread throughout the village. Years pass by. Now we're introduced to a reporter named Jerry, who survives by doing small-time reporting work. Jerry had previously spread many fake news stories and controversies. This had earned him a lot of money and fame years ago. But in the end, when the audience started realizing the truth, they became furious. Jerry even got caught in a legal case, after which he lost all his jobs. His reputation was completely ruined. Currently, he works for a small news reporting company just to make ends meet. At this point, Jerry is heading to a very remote village to cover some news. He wants something trending, something that will get him major recognition. He even twists real stories to make them appear sensational. Upon reaching the village, Jerry meets a farmer. On asking, he learns that there's something in the village that everyone fears. No one knows exactly what it is. But Jerry doesn't care, he wants a sensational story that'll go viral. He then meets Father Hagen, the Catholic priest of the village church who oversees everything. Jerry, however, doesn't believe in such things and decides to leave, since he hasn't found anything worthwhile. Just then, Jerry hears some strange sounds coming from a tree. This tree is located right in the middle of a farm, and shockingly, it's the same tree where that woman was burned alive years ago. Since then, no one goes near it. Unaware of the history, Jerry slowly approaches the tree. When he examines it, he notices a hole in its trunk. Inside, he sees something shining and picks it up. Turns out, it's that very same doll. When Jerry looks at the back, he sees a date written, it's sometime in February. Jerry is puzzled, because the date mentioned doesn't even exist in February. What kind of doll is this? The farmer also shows up and tells him something about it. But even the farmer doesn't know much and assumes it's just a toy for kids. But Jerry wants to create something trending. So he smashes the doll with his foot and creates a news story claiming that the farmer found an ancient doll on his farm and that the doll's presence is making his animals go mad. In reality, the animals were already sick. This is how Jerry used to fabricate new stories. Now he had his content. But he had no idea what a huge mistake he had made. This one act was going to bring disaster upon the entire village. After finishing his work, Jerry was driving back late at night, cautiously. Suddenly, a girl appears in front of his car. In an attempt to avoid hitting her, Jerry swerves, and ends up crashing. Injured, Jerry steps out and follows the woman. The woman, screaming in a strange way, runs back toward that same tree. There, she even thanks Jerry for setting her free. Jerry is stunned, and suddenly, the woman collapses and faints. Out of humanity, Jerry picks her up and takes her home. The villagers tell him that she is Father Hagen's niece. After bringing her home and letting her rest, it's revealed that the girl's name is Alice. Soon, the family doctor, Natalie, arrives. She starts communicating with Alice using sign language. Because Alice can't speak. Jerry was still in shock because he had seen Alice the previous night, speaking to someone in the farm field. Now Alice was given medication, and Dr. Natalie explained everything and told her to rest. Jerry was thanked, and then Dr. Natalie took him to a shed where he could spend the night. In fact, Natalie even threatened Jerry, saying she knew how he created fake news stories, and if she informed the police, he would be arrested. She warned him to stay away from them. Jerry had already found his first hater in the village, what more could he ask for? Jerry quietly left to spend the night. But little did he know that his coming nights were going to be dangerous. The next morning, Jerry went to the church to meet Alice, as prayers were being held there. The entire village had gathered for the prayers. When Alice approached the statue of Mother Mary, she seemed confused and began hearing strange voices. Her behavior suddenly turned bizarre. Out of nowhere, a strange atmosphere filled the church. All the young girls there began to follow Alice, who, in a trance-like state, walked straight to the holy tree in the farm field. Everyone followed her. When Alice reached the tree, she saw a glowing figure, like a spirit. At this point, her parents, Father Hagen, Jerry, and Natalie had also arrived. And for the first time, Alice spoke in front of everyone. This shocked them, because Alice was known to be mute. So how could this even be possible? Alice said she could see Mother Mary in front of her, and she was guiding her to do good for everyone. But Jerry had already noticed that despite being deaf, Alice had spoken in a similar way before. In this village, people deeply believed in God and Mother Mary. Now everyone began to think that Mother Mary had entered Alice. People started to worship her and prayed around her. Natalie, their family doctor, was quite surprised. She ran several tests on Alice, but all results came back normal. Alice wasn't angry, possessed, or showing any unnatural signs. Jerry now wanted to cover this story. He immediately called an old colleague from his previous company and told her about the news. But obviously, she didn't trust him anymore. Jerry had earlier caused the company major losses by spreading fake stories. So now, no one wanted to work with him. Soon, news about the village and Alice spread far and wide. The deaf girl who had suddenly started speaking was believed to have been blessed by Mother Mary. People believed she would help others. Disabled children from different places were brought in to meet her. Alice was made to sit in the center, and a severely injured boy with fractured legs was brought before her. Alice simply told him, "Have faith in Mother Mary, everything will be all right." The boy then tried to walk, and unbelievably, his leg was healed. It felt like a miracle unfolding in front of everyone's eyes. People were now fully convinced that Alice was indeed the vessel of Mother Mary. After witnessing all this, Jerry decided that no matter what, he would cover this story and bring it to the world. That night, while sleeping, Jerry had a strange dream. He saw an old house near a lake, and inside the lake, there was a terrifying shadow coming to attack him. Jerry tried to escape, but the shadow caught him. When he woke up, he saw strange black dots on the ceiling. They were very dark, but Jerry chose to ignore them and left to gather more news. Meanwhile, a new character was introduced, Father Gale, who had just arrived from afar. He conducted a speech, saying there had been other cases like this one, where people claimed Mother Mary was speaking through someone. But the most important question, he said, was whether it really was Mother Mary trying to reach out to them, or something else entirely. That's why the church always investigated such phenomena thoroughly before confirming them. Father Gale then called upon a paranormal investigator named Maul, who would now investigate the case further. Maul explained the stages through which the church confirms divine interventions like Mother Mary's presence. He was quite confident, as he had already investigated many cases that turned out to be hoaxes. Stories like this were created only to make something go viral. But now, it was clear that Father Maul would properly interview Alice and confirm whether Mother Mary had truly entered her. Father Hagen, who was Alice's uncle and guardian, was deeply worried. As he left the place, he noticed the same doll that Jerry had broken earlier. He walked toward the tree and placed the doll there. Suddenly, a dark spirit emerged from the tree. It looked like it was about to attack Father Hagen. But it didn't. He quietly walked away, and as he left, the spirit vanished. Meanwhile, Father Gale and Father Maul were shown sitting with Jerry. It was decided that Jerry would be in charge of documenting the entire event. Even though the priests were aware of Jerry's past misconduct, he was still given this chance. Alice didn't mind the interview either, so they all began the process together. Since it couldn't be completed in one day, the interview was spread over several days. One night, Jerry visited Father Hagen and found him extremely agitated. Hagen didn't want Alice to be harmed in any way. He was afraid that if it wasn't truly Mother Mary behind all this, Alice could be in serious danger from evil forces. He knew that where there is good, evil always follows. It was possible that something pretending to be Mother Mary was manipulating Alice and could later harm her. As the interviews progressed, Father Gale and Father Maul continued asking Alice questions to learn more. Alice kept repeating that they must have faith in Mother Mary, who would make everything right. The girl who once couldn't even speak was now singing. Suddenly, Father Hagen collapsed from a heart attack. He fell to the ground, struggling to breathe. It was then revealed that he had cancer and only a short time left to live. Alice rushed to him, placed her hand on his heart, and calmly said that Mother Mary would make everything all right. A moment later, Hagen was perfectly fine. His pain was gone. It felt like his cancer had been miraculously cured. People started to truly believe that Mother Mary was healing people through Alice. But then, Father Hagen noticed a dark figure behind Alice. It was terrifying, and he realized that this was not the work of Mother Mary. Something evil was manipulating her. But despite that, Father Gale and Father Maul had found everything they needed to confirm that Mother Mary was truly present. Because of these supposed miracles, Alice's name was added to the list of people believed to be blessed by Mother Mary. The village suddenly became famous. People from everywhere were told they could come there to have their wishes granted. Overnight, the village became a trending sensation. Alice's recognition skyrocketed, and Jerry, the man who had covered the story, received a job offer from his old company. Jerry clearly stated that he wanted his former position back. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. Jerry got his job, the village became popular, and the local economy began to thrive. But only Father Hagen knew about the looming danger that threatened them all. Meanwhile, Jerry went on a date with Dr. Natalie. They sat at a restaurant, chatting, and Jerry shared the story about the doll he found in the farm field. He said the doll looked strange, but he had heard that farmers kept them in their fields for good luck. Natalie explained what she knew, that while farmers may place them for luck, these dolls had another ancient purpose: to imprison evil spirits. In the old times, when extremely dangerous spirits were captured, they were sealed inside such dolls, and a specific date would be written on them. It was a strange and unpredictable date, one meant to signal that the object carried a curse. Hearing this, Jerry was completely stunned, because in his attempt to create a fake news story, he had broken a doll with a similar kind of date written on it. However, he didn't reveal anything about it to Natalie. Instead, the two of them went out for a walk, traveling a little outside the village. As they wandered, Jerry suddenly noticed a place that shocked him. It was the exact location he had seen in his dream, an old house and a flowing river. That place used to be a church long ago but had since been completely abandoned. Jerry's mind was now overwhelmed with questions, and as he looked into the river water, he saw faint glimpses of the same dark shadow he had seen in his dream. The sight deeply unsettled him. Meanwhile, Father Hagen was shown reading an old book in the church. The book belonged to a priest from centuries ago and contained various detailed writings. After reading for quite some time, Father Hagen discovered disturbing truths about the demonic spirit and even about the broken doll placed under the tree. As he began to understand the significance, he started experiencing horrifying visions. He saw the dark shadow everywhere. Clearly, the entity was now haunting him. The next day, shocking news spread: Father Hagen had been killed in the church, allegedly by that very spirit. Everyone was stunned. But Father Gale wanted to suppress the truth to protect the church's reputation. He staged it as a suicide, claiming Father Hagen's cancer had returned and he couldn't bear the pain anymore. Together with Jerry, Father Gale buried the news completely so that no one would ever find out what had truly happened. Alice, on the other hand, was devastated to hear about her uncle's death. Jerry, now recording all of Alice's reactions and expressions, began to grow suspicious. He finally told Alice that maybe what she believed to be Mary was actually something else. That's when Alice began to change. Her voice started shifting, and it seemed like she was being possessed. Despite everything, she insisted that they must have complete faith in Mary without a shred of doubt. But something about her didn't feel right anymore. Jerry felt deeply disturbed and decided to end the interview, taking the footage back to his room. While rewatching the recording, he finally saw it, the same dark shadow from his nightmare. Right then, Jerry's laptop shut down suddenly, and he began to have terrifying visions of the spirit. Terrified, he ran straight to Natalie and told her almost everything. The two of them rushed to Father Hagen's house. There, they found the very same diary Father Hagen had read. It contained everything about the spirit. As they read, they discovered the truth. Centuries ago, there had been a woman named Mary. But she wasn't an ordinary woman. She had made a pact with the devil, offering him countless souls in exchange for immortality. Mary had killed many people and offered their souls to the devil in return for eternal life. However, some priests and fathers from that era had found out the truth. They used a doll to trap her soul. That moment was the same as the one shown at the beginning of the story. Mary, the cursed woman, had been burned alive at the tree to seal her spirit. The evil spirit that now haunted Alice wasn't Mother Mary at all, it was Cursed Mary. The realization came too late, as the dark spirit attacked Jerry and Natalie as well. The two barely escaped and fled in their car. Jerry called his old colleague, insisting that this news should not be published. But the news company found the story too sensational to ignore and published it anyway. Furious and desperate, Jerry took the entire diary and went straight to Father Gale. He explained everything, how this was not the blessing of Mother Mary but the manipulation of Cursed Mary, and how they needed to help Alice and destroy the spirit. But instead of shock, Father Gale only laughed, because he already knew everything all along. Their main intention was to make the church world famous by any means necessary. This would benefit them greatly, attracting visitors from all over the world. In a way, it was all political. People's lives were being put at risk for power and fame. Even Father Maul was shocked to see all of this. Jerry started threatening that he would expose everything, but Father Gale wasn't someone who could be easily intimidated. Especially since Jerry already had a ruined reputation, no one would believe him anyway. Back in his room, Jerry carefully reread the book. That's when he came across an important revelation. Mary once had a child, and she had made a deal with the devil that her spirit would only possess her bloodline. That meant it was possible that Alice, who now seemed to be fully possessed, could actually be a descendant of Mary. Jerry immediately shared this critical piece of information with Natalie. Just as they were discussing it, the black figure appeared again, the same terrifying spirit coming to attack them. Fortunately, Father Maul arrived in time. Using his crucifix, he managed to drive the spirit away. Having seen the spirit with his own eyes, Father Maul decided to fully support Jerry. Now their mission was clear: they had to trap the spirit back into the doll. Meanwhile, Alice was seen inside the church, addressing the crowd of visitors who had gathered in large numbers because they believed in her. But Alice was now completely under the spirit's control, repeating whatever it commanded. Father Maul began preparing a ritual to trap the spirit. However, he had no idea how powerful it truly was. As the ritual began, flames erupted from one corner of the room. The large crucifix suddenly came crashing down onto Father Maul, a move clearly orchestrated by the spirit. Tragically, Father Maul died then and there. Jerry and Natalie were devastated. The spirit was growing stronger with each passing moment. It had become nearly impossible to defeat. Still, Jerry wasn't one to sit idly by. He and Natalie came up with a plan. They knew the spirit's greatest power came from people's belief in it. If they could break that faith, its power would weaken. With this in mind, they rushed to the church. Natalie approached Alice first, speaking in sign language. She explained that the being Alice believed in wasn't a holy figure, it was a dangerous demon. She asked Alice to trust her own judgment and do what felt right. Meanwhile, Jerry began addressing the crowd, trying to convince them that everything Alice had said was a lie. People believed Alice's words were divine messages from Mother Mary, but Jerry urged them to see the truth. He explained that the boy whose leg had healed likely recovered on his own, and Alice regaining her voice could have just been a coincidence. Given Jerry's notorious background for fake news, no one believed him at first. In fact, people assumed he was lying again. But gradually, public opinion began to shift. Doubt crept in, and people started losing their faith in Alice. And that was exactly what Jerry and Natalie had hoped for, destroying the spirit's power by breaking the trust people had in it. The dark spirit sensed this too. Its strength began to dwindle. Alice also began to understand what was happening. She ran to Jerry and Natalie, saying she no longer wanted to follow the spirit. Just then, the black spirit emerged from the tree and stormed into the church, attacking everyone in sight. Those who once believed Mother Mary would protect them now fled in terror. The spirit first killed Father Gale, the most deceitful of them all. His soul was so dark that absorbing it gave the spirit even more power. Then the spirit came straight for Jerry. But before it could reach him, Alice stepped in the way. When the spirit touched Alice, it suddenly weakened. For some unknown reason, it could no longer harm her. Perhaps it was because they shared the same bloodline. Maybe such beings couldn't touch their own descendants. And now, Alice had also stopped believing that this was Mother Mary. The spirit had grown so weak that its entire form began to disintegrate. But after its destruction, Alice too couldn't survive. Jerry held Alice's lifeless body in his arms and, for the first time in his life, prayed to God, pleading to bring Alice back. He said, "This girl saved my life. She was never at fault from the beginning." And in the very next moment, Alice came back to life. They were both overwhelmed with joy, but Alice had lost her voice again. She had returned to how she used to be. The two of them stepped outside, and by morning, Father Hagen's funeral was held. It felt like everything had finally settled down and peace had returned. But then, inside the church, we see blood dripping from the eyes of the Mother Mary statue, a sign that something even more evil might be on its way. And with that, our story comes to an end.